Yo, what's up? So I had a conversation, man, this was probably a few weeks back at this point, with some of my coworkers about just discovering new music. And one of the things a number of them said was they just don't know where, or they find it hard to. So I just kind of wanted to come on here and just start talking about some new music I found that I really, really dig. And I think that has to start off with the song that gave me the idea to do this, which was Pandemonium by Savannah Pope. I'm going to see if I can get this to play a little bit without feeding back. Let's see. So this tune, I'll save it for later. Skip around a bit though. So I think one of the reasons I really like this song is because for me, it's super reminiscent of Judas Priest and Queen. Like I found myself describing it to a good friend of mine as if you took Diet Judas Priest, a little less Judas, a little more Priest, and had them write their version of Bohemian Rhapsody. I absolutely love this track. It's like a wild ride, start to finish. And this artist is awesome. I mean, everything down to the look, when I look at her, it's just giving me like Dolly Parton meets Chappell Roan, but with like some Rob Halford leather. And I really, really love what this artist is doing. She's super cool. I am shocked that she only has like, I think it was 3,000 monthly listeners or something, 3,800 monthly listeners. But she's worked with like Ringo Starr and a bunch of pop rock icons. Incredible. Savannah Pope, Pandemonium, absolutely check it out. I think another one that I really got into is this artist, LG, Team Genesis. And this song definitely just speaks to my love for angry political music. I grew up on Rage Against the Machine and hardcore punk, so there's something there for me, a big level of nostalgia. So LG, this track is called YBM. I believe that stands for Young Black Militia. Let's see if we can get it playing.
Every day's a party scene when you're young, wild and free. Cabbage like dinner greens, now we know what winning means. And they just wanna hang us up in distant trees while we roll fancy rats around smoking leaves. Folk rats and soulful leaves, high notes and poetry. Concrete jungle, even from gravel you can grow a seed. Hey.
Yeah, so this to me, I mean, it's a vibe. It's a bop for sure. It's angry. It's political. I think this woman has some really unique flow. I really dig what she's putting down in terms of a look too. Like, it's just very unique. And I feel like that in my experience consuming music, when it comes to hip hop, has been harder to find. It's kind of true of rock music too, which are like, I'd say probably the biggest genres I listen to. But YBM, LG, it just amps me up. Similarly to this next song, again, political music. Bullet to Bite by this group, Secret Menu. Let's take a little sneak peek.
On the limb, on the run, I'll stare down a gun, but I got a knife and bullets to bite. Seeing red, smelling blood, oh, hands are going numb, but
Skip ahead a bit.
I got a bite.
Yeah, so they're giving me like a lot of like old school Cage the Elephant, I think. I think it was Thank You Happy Birthday, that record when the lead singer was just detoxing. Um and I think one of the things I like about that sound and that vibe for Secret Menu as well as Cage the Elephant is, I remember when I heard that record, Thank You Happy Birthday, it I just listened to him sing and I was like, I can hear you detoxing in this entire record. And it was just really raw, which I think is something that's also always pulled me in. Like when I think about the story for Lamb of God's record, Now You've Got Something to Die For. There's a great interview about the creation of that, and the producer, when they were tracking vocals, just said to Randy Blythe, I want you to sound like you're dying when we record this, which is pretty wild. But what he had him do, he had Randy Blythe chain smoke cigarettes and just jog around the block that the studio was on, and came into the studio. And as soon as Randy Blythe got in there, he shoved a microphone into his face and he hit record. And that, to me, I get a lot of that from Bullet to Bite as well. It's just sort of that raw, like, realness. For me, this song is definitely a lot about what happened with, like, Luigi Mangione. There's references to CEO killings in it, which I think is, super relevant and cool for what's happening, especially in rock music. I feel like for a number of years has been rather disconnected. I think a lot of the rock music, at least on the charts that we were seeing, was very sort of, this was super popular, let me follow this formula and it'll do something. But they never really started writing anything of substance, in my opinion. There's obviously exceptions to that, and there were definitely periods for me where I wasn't super hip to what was coming out, and I wasn't making a real point of following these new artists. Which kind of brings me to like this next artist and song, West Coast Funeral by Chris Casey. There's nothing political about this that I hear. But it was just sort of, when I heard it, it was just sort of this perfect blend for me of like nostalgia and innovation. When I heard this song, it just really gave me like Weezer meets hip hop, but the intro of it just starts with an acoustic guitar. We'll hear it here in a second. It really reminded me of Nirvana, which I think is super cool. So let's take a listen real quick. It's kind of Weezer-y too.
When I die, lay me on the West Coast, put me in my best clothes, call my friends I kept close. When I die, please put on the best show, please call everyone who hated and say they can let go. When I die, I want you to tell them that they'll be fine. I wasn't all that good anyway, so don't you cry. We had a good run, it wasn't the best though. So when I die, lay me on the West Coast.
Yeah, so I mean, I think if you're familiar with Weezer or Nirvana, and actually now I'm listening to it again, there's definitely a Weezer song that guitar intro is more reminiscent of than Nirvana for me. But it just, I don't know, there's something about this that really just hit me. It was like, I could see myself really wanting to listen to this song, like walking down the street at night after a late night, throw it on just as a good vibe, sort of melancholic, when I'm heading home at the end of the night. Really, really fun song. Probably not super great for a party. It's pretty depressing. And I think that brings me to Turtle Island by Renee Christine. Excuse me. So this tune I don't really know how to describe it. My understanding on the messaging behind it is it's about First Nations, Indigenous peoples in the Americas, and just, speaking up for them. And I believe the title comes from the sort of origin story of the world. How, what is it? Turtles All the Way Down, which is a it's the name of a bar. But my understanding of the story, and I could be wrong, so please forgive me if I am, is that there's just a series of turtles, and the bottom one's the biggest, and they get smaller and smaller, and the planet Earth exists on the back of a turtle, and that sort of somehow in there tells a story of the creation of Earth. And this just kind of spoke to me. It's a vibe. It has a cello as a lead part, which I thought was really unique. Let's take a listen.
Loud was the river and the river could talk, and heavy was the water when the water could walk. Mother remembers what her sons forgot, and never take without giving. Somewhere inside you remember the tune of the very first song you were singing it to.
Skip ahead.
Feels the same for everyone. Now just look at you crying. How do they want it?
Yeah, so I think that for me, just knowing or thinking I know the message and understanding that world origin story, it just gave me like 21st century Bob Dylan vibes a little bit. That sort of like protest era of singing, or protest era songwriting, where everything was sort of very political. And then it has that really, really big moment that we didn't see back then, where it's just, like, here's the drop, and it gets very anthemic, which I really, really dig. And I got like 3 more I want to talk about, so I'm going to try and make these a little quick. These are all definitely on the heavier side, if you're into like metal. Heinous by Unity TX. This, I didn't go for like what I didn't dive deep into what the messaging behind this song was. I think I just heard it, and it just gave me a good vibe, and I just really liked it. So let's take a listen real quick. That's sort of the vibe, and it's not too dissimilar from this next group, Differences, who I've seen pop up a lot on my FYP and TikTok. Let's just take a listen to that real quick. A little more high energy. So this is definitely going back to like some of the rap rock stuff I grew up with in the 90s. More so, I think that's going to be true of this last track. And I think for me, when I listen to a metal song, I really just love just again, I think it just comes back to it being raw. And I think that's something that turns a lot of people off of metal in a lot of ways, where it's just this vulgar display of power. Sorry for that reference. Anyone who gets it, Pantera has had questionable politics at best. But it is just this raw, expression of emotion, and I really value that. I would put metal and a lot of other genres as well sort of right up against free jazz. When you listen to free jazz, it sounds like noise. It sounds like just a bunch of random people doing a bunch of random crap. There was this show in Boston called The Fringe, which was just this free jazz performance. I think they did it every month. I think Bob Galati was playing in it and a few other heavy hitter jazz dudes. And they got on, they were performing and then walked off stage at one point, and then all of them came back on stage in gorilla costumes and just started hitting their instruments and sort of pretending to be, gorillas. And as silly as that is, it's, to me, sort of very representative of what free jazz is. It's just that very punk rock metal idea of, we're going to do whatever the fuck we want to right now, and we don't care what you think of it. We're going to do it. And you can like it, you can hate it, that's fine. But you can't be indifferent, because it's going to make you feel uncomfortable in one way or another, whether that's with the sounds they play, the notes they use, or the chaos that ensues in those performances. And yeah, I think that's my attraction to metal. Just kind of a long diatribe there, but I really do think free jazz and jazz, metal, and punk rock, they're all sort of speak to the same ideas. And that brings us to this last tune, Common Enemy, Buffalo Farm. Yeah, let's just take a listen. Still in the world of heavy.
And remember, kids, the next time that somebody tells you the government want to do that, oh yes they want.
Yeah. This gives me big Korn energy. But this one is political. I don't know if you heard that intro or not, but it's definitely political. Talks about, what would the government do? Would the government do this? Yes, they would. Some awful atrocity. And yeah, again, there's just sort of this moment of nostalgia for me in this song that I really loved. And I think the uniqueness of it for me is the very blown out lo-fi textures that are happening all across this, whether it's the 808s or the vocals, everything just sounds blown up. And I really love it when you hear that in a production where the sonic textures of the music are reflective of everything else. This is an angry song. This is a headbanging song. You shouldn't feel okay. You shouldn't feel like you're seeing in 3D or whatever. You should sort of feel like you're seeing red. And when I think about being in that headspace of just raw, I can't do anything because I am so angry. It kind of feels like that. It feels blown out. It feels distorted. It feels like everything else disappears behind me. And I love that, especially if you're talking about, again, something political. Love what these guys did with this track. Definitely recommend digging into their other works as well. For all of these artists, honestly, Secret Menu had some really cool songs. Chris Casey, I wasn't really as struck by his other works as I was by this song. I probably need to go back and take another listen because that's probably just, first impressions. I really love this song, but Savannah Pope, again, obsessed. I discovered her while I was on the bus to work and just listened to like everything I could before I needed to start my job. Renee Christine, I have to go back and listen to her other works. I'll admit I didn't listen to anything else from her. Unity TX, Differences, and Buffalo Farm. The other stuff's great. It gives me the same vibes, the same energy. Really love it. And I do just want to shout out. Oh, wait, this is another one. I did just want to shout out Lola Young because I think she's awesome. Definitely not an unknown artist, though. Some of these others may not be, too. Maybe I'm just a little more out of touch than I think I am. But I believe this is also metal. I haven't listened to this one before filming this. But insert disc 2, Back to Earth. There's another artist on here, Bummer Hill. Let's take a listen while I drink something. Yeah, again, for me, a lot of this is nostalgia. This is bringing me back to like the heyday of, as you call it, like corporate metal or like pop metal. Just that era in the late 90s where you had like Lamb of God. It's not really corporate or pop by any means, but it just reminds me of that. Sort of the greatest hits of the alt metal scene. And this is also a political song. I discovered these cats on TikTok. There's a moment in this song where I think it's just like an acapella or screaming. It's like hyper political, talking about everything that's going on in the world right now. I really dug it. These cats are like young, formed in 2019, 2,100 listeners. I really dig these dudes. I think they're a lot of fun. I think they have a lot of potential with what they're doing, especially as we're seeing like rock become more popular again. At least if the report from Illuminate was correct. Well, I'm kind of keeping my fingers crossed because I'm really loving what's happening in rock music right now. The stuff I'm seeing, and sort of just general shout outs, I guess. I really dig President. I'm absolutely obsessed with Sleep Token. So discovering President through Sleep Token's whole Even in Arcadia marketing campaign was a lot of fun for me. And just sort of the way they're, playing their cards with the anonymous band thing is super interesting because everyone was like, oh, the singer's 100% this guy. I forget who it was, but it's like, they referred to him as emo royalty. And then in their music video, he's like taking off his mask and they show his face. And then in the next music video, he takes off his mask. It's a different person and that's a mask and he takes it off. I just think between them and Sleep Token, what they're doing with the anonymous bands is super interesting. And I think it really speaks to, you know, a lot of the negative sides of super fandom and fandom that have come up just in various, you know, industry publications. I forget, there was some like big pop star who was talking about it. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of it in this longer than I expected video. Hope y'all dig this. Let me know if you dig this sort of new type of content I'm putting out, I guess. I'm trying to get away from so much of the drumming stuff, as much as I love playing and being a musician and, you know, playing for artists. I do kind of want to start branching out of that a little bit. Yeah, hope you dig it, and see you next time.